good. And hold on. Let me see. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna hit intro to work.
Now you're
Muted.
muted, Rob.
Hey guys,
There you go.
welcome back to the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I have another fascinating guest with me today. I have with me, I'll explain first how I met Ken. Met Chad from Open Your Reality. I like Chad a lot. I really dig his show. And he had me on his show, and I've been on. He's come on my show, and then through that, Chad and Ken are friends who I have on today, and they started a podcast. It's called We Are One, but it's really Ken. Ken is the heart behind We Are One, and who Ken is he's an independent researcher. He's a businessman. He's a really intellectual mind, and from what I've picked up so far from talking to him, from doing past shows with him, and kind of like just talking now, it seems like Ken and I are kind of on the same wavelength. We might have some disagreements on this or that, but that's going to happen in this field because we were just talking. It's like I've said this on my show, and Ken just said it's like none of us have all the pieces of the puzzle, but we're all trying to put the puzzle together. So I'm really honored to have Ken on today, and I think you guys should all subscribe to his channel. And with that all said, Ken, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on. How are you?
Thanks, buddy. How are you? Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, when did you? Okay, let's start with this. Like, when did you first start realizing that like your reality wasn't what you thought it was?
Well, I was raised Catholic in Orlando, Florida area, and most of my family's from Philadelphia area, so pretty close to where you are now, but the Northeast. Um, you wonder what's going on when you're growing up and you have questions, right? I have an aunt that's psychic, and so the paranormal, the supernatural was never that far out of my grasp. I remember, when we saw her, she lived in Philadelphia and we lived in Florida. We came back every Christmas. When we did that, we were always very excited to talk to her about, oh, give me a reading, tell me my future. And so there are things that we can't understand, that we've always known that, whether we call them spirits or ghosts or paranormal, whatever they are. Those are kind of things that we've always had a grasp of the unknown, right? As we go about our life, we start noticing things, synchronicities, asking questions. I've always been a maverick, been called that so many times in my life. It's insane. But just always asking questions, always being, I wouldn't call it awake. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I really started questioning things. And, one of the things that I have reframed now is the victim mentality and the struggle into overcoming that and actually using that for your advantage and your lessons, and how to reframe things and just how to see life, how to enjoy it more. So I've been questioning them for a long time. But to answer your question, probably the last 4 or 5 years I've been awake to absolutely anything is possible.
Was there a trigger point that like tipped you to was there a trigger point that kind of took you over that like made you think like, okay, this is like something's really going on here?
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone has that. That's really that is really in tuned or really intuitive or really awake. For me, it was a health concern. My mother passed away now 15 years ago from lupus, so autoimmune, which they don't really know what causes that. And my dad passed away 8 years ago from COPD. So we talked about that before. He was a smoker. And when my mom passed away, he really went downhill, quickly, but he stayed for a while, battling through ailments and things like that. So when I was diagnosed, I started feeling bad. I had joint pain, fibromyalgia stuff. I'm looking on the internet, finding out what's going on with me. I was really healthy my whole life. All of a sudden, I'm not feeling well. I'm not sleeping well. I'm going downhill pretty fast. And I went to get a blood test, and the doctor said, you have tested positive for lupus. You have the markers. So did a lot of soul searching. I was pretty down and out for a while, thinking, I have now a son who's now 7. So he was 3 before. And I'm like, I need to fix this. I need to solve whatever's going on to me. I need to find out what it is to save him. Basically, is how I looked at it. So just did a lot of soul searching. The first thing I did when I got home from that diagnosis and kind of like regrouped was I Googled how to heal the body on YouTube. And that started my YouTube journey. I'm probably number one YouTube watcher in the world the last 4 years. I have a number of how many hours it is, but it's a lot. And went down different rabbit holes of not only, what is this reality, but the placebo effect and, the power of the mind. I came across Joe Dispenza and motivational podcasts like Tom Bilyeu, I think his name is, the guy who did Quest. Has a show, and just hearing all these crazy things that I thought were kind of aloof to me before. Now I realized anything is possible. So,
I don't mean to get on a health kick. I wanted to get on like simulation theory and stuff, but like I wanted to ask you, like, are there ways, like, I mean, like I've looked into natural healing too, and it seems really promising. Like I've had some natural healers on my show, and like I guess I'm a little bit skeptical. I mean, like I know it doesn't show when I do my show. I don't really challenge my guests that much, but I am really skeptical about things. Like because like I always want to be like 100% sure. But like, do you think we can cure like disease? Because like I'll tell you, like my mom has COPD, and God knows I don't know what's wrong with me. I mean, I feel like I don't think anything right now, but I'm always worried about like my health. Like, do you really think we can heal ourselves naturally? And like, I mean, have you looked into like treating your ailment? And like, what are your thoughts on
yeah,
that?
I mean, disease starts in the mind, and it definitely affects every part of your reality. I'm no longer in any pain. I don't have any problems. I could say I did it by diet, but it wasn't diet. I can say the one thing that I believe helped me the most and gave me the most clarity when I started my journey. And I just, I was hearing voices in my head basically telling me water fast, water fast. And, I had been intermittent fasting for a long time. I didn't even know what the hell it was. I just did it. When I'm not hungry, I wasn't eating. And I was a very busy person in my jobs. So, I would go 6, 7, 10, 12, 15, 20 hours without eating, just being busy. And so when I first started doing the exploration about health, it went down a rabbit hole of anything is possible, right? So the first thing I did was like placebo and Joe Dispenza, how he healed his back through his accident. And so I was just called to do a water fast, and didn't know anyone who was ever done it. Had absolutely no expectations. It was one of those things. It was me versus me, and just 5 days, nothing but water and some Himalayan sea salt. And that was it. It was not easy for the first couple of days. After that, it was really, really easy to transition. But I'm not sure that, they say your inflammation goes when you are off of food. And I would say that is probably accurate. But I think that the mind controls everything. And I mean that. I mean, I believe that if you believe it, you'll see it. I think that's really what it boils down to with being a creator, being a conscious creator, as opposed to what I would call a minion or a non-player character. And so that differentiates you how you view your life. If you're a victim, you are waiting for someone else to save you. And when you're a creator, you can literally manifest and create whatever reality you want.
I agree, because it seems like whatever this reality is, or whatever our consciousness is, like it seems like our brains are like high end like CPUs or like computers. You know what I mean? Like it's so weird. Like it's like we don't even know like all this stuff the brain can do, right?
No, I mean, reality is very, very malleable. The question is, again, goes back to, if you don't believe it, you're not going to see it. So, there are a lot of people who understand that, we can do certain things or we can heal our body, but if they don't really believe it, it's not going to happen. You have to have 2 points to connect to. That's the way I see it. They're like neurons, right? You have to have a solution and a problem. And we all have problems. But if you can't create a solution and a neuron link to that, to see how you would solve that problem, then I don't think we're able to fully get to the next point where we solve that problem. And for me, I just kept saying, I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm done with being in pain. And every day was a little bit easier. to the fact that almost like I forgot that I was sick, or forgot that I am sick. So I go about every day as if it's one more step to the journey of I don't know, being immortal. I don't know if that's even possible, but people talk about being breatharians. I mean, I believe that anything is possible.
Yeah, I follow that. Like, I wanted to ask you this: what are your thoughts on like what the Mandela Effect is? Do you think that's things like bleeding into our timeline? And then, what are your thoughts on timelines? Because I know you've had some interesting stuff happen to you lately, and I know you've made some videos about it. I watched them, like things showing up in your house that weren't there, and maybe you could explain that better. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing that really shook my reality, as I was going again, I was believing this stuff, so I was seeing this stuff. And one thing that happened to me was in 2019, and I didn't relate it to that at that point yet. But as I was going through this transition, this happened. So as I was starting to wake up, the beginning of my journey was 2018, 2019, and I left this cable box in a green Publix bag at my front door for my friend. That it was like a rigged cable box, IPTV. That wasn't rigged, but anyway, regardless, you know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
I put this bag by the front door, and I called them as I'm walking out of my house. And as sure as I'm sitting here in front of this computer talking to you right now, it'll be the same story that I tell in 20 years and 50 years. It's the same exact story. And it is I left this in this cable box in a Publix bag by the front door on this brown long table. Walked out the door, called my friend, said, "Hey, I'm going out of town. You're welcome to come and get it. It's on the first, entrance table by my door." So we drive off with my family. We left. We went on vacation. The next day he calls me and says, "Hey, there's no bag there. I said, "There is a bag there. I'm telling you, I put it there as I left. That's the last thing that I did. Very last thing, 100% sure." He says, "No bags here." I said, "Well, you're welcome to look around, but I put it there." So he says, "I can't find it." So I'm asking everyone that I know, "Hey, anybody, do you have any friends come in the house?" Whatever. My son says, "Yeah, my friend came over." I said, "Well, I hope you didn't take this thing, because I'm telling you, I left it there." So long story short, we get home. I'm tearing the house up. I can't find it anywhere. It's gone. I made a video, asking them, like, I want to document it. Like, I want to make sure I don't misremember this. So they're documenting. I'm asking them, "Hey, this thing's missing. I know what it looks like. It's from China. Nobody else can have this. Please let your friends know. Just bring it back." Nothing. So 9 months later, I'm basically working from home, my own business, but I'm also in and out of the house. Nobody's there. I go into my laundry room, and it's sitting right there in my dryer.
No.
I mean, just sitting there.
That's
there,
insane.
sitting there, absolutely sitting there. On my dryer. Nothing else is around it. Nobody's been in my house. I go to my dryer to get to my car every single day, 4 or 5 times a day, into my garage, into my laundry room, into my house. So I looked at it and I said, "What the fuck what is this? Like, how is this?" So I first started thinking somebody put it there. So I picked it up. I kind of hid it. I waited like 2 days before somebody would say something. I recorded again at my dinner table, my son, my wife sitting there, and I go, "Listen, do you remember that thing that disappeared from this house?" And I had it on video. My son was like, "Yeah, the cable box." I'm like, "Yes." He goes, "Did you find it?" I said, "Please don't fuck with me." I quote, "Please don't fuck with me. This is not a joke. If somebody took it and put it back, please let me know, because I'm going a little nuts right now." And he goes, "Nope. I haven't been home all day. I don't know what you're talking about. When did you find it?" Like he was really asking questions, and I'm like to my wife, "Did you find it? How did it get in the middle of where I'm looking at right now?" Nothing. So I videoed that. I let it go. I said, "Well, I found it. It just popped up." And they're like, "Oh, that's great. That's cool." I'm like, "You don't understand. It popped up. Like, you guys aren't seeing the same thing I'm seeing." So anyway, very, very long story short, 9 months later, it reappeared. So recently, this was a couple days ago, I posted it on my channel, and I come in from out of the house. There's cleaners in my house, and there's a remote control from like a fan remote sitting on this table that's been cleaned up. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen this remote before. Like, where this came from. So revealing to your audience now, I don't know where that remote came from. Again, something's going on. So there's physical things that have really messed with me, that have materialized from thin air, or been moved or placed somewhere. I'm not saying I don't know what the cable box was. I'm not saying that potentially the remote wasn't in my house somewhere. I'm saying that it was, these things are placed in front of me for me to see, that were not there an hour before that.
It's fascinating. Like I've had things happen to me recently and throughout the last couple of years that kind of like where like things will just disappear and then they'll reappear like a couple of days later, kind of like how you just said. This is like a common thing, and I've always wondered what this is, because like it's almost like like your truth, right? Like what's going on.
I know without a doubt, without a doubt, and I tried to look at it very. I don't know if the word is auspiciously, but very detailed. Like, okay, what could it have been? What could have happened? I always, I've thought for the last few years the internet was alive, and then I watched your show, and I've seen like comments on, when we were going through the pandemic a few years ago. I won't say it, don't worry. I saw people posting online that their relatives were posting, and they were like, yeah, my mom's been passed away for like 4 years. Who the hell is posting this stuff? And I was like, okay, this is AI somehow, some way. And then I watched your show with Nate the other day, and he was talking about, what happened to him and AI and stuff, kind of moving stuff around, manipulating things. So I have a few other stories that I haven't shared before, that are kind of out there. But they're 100% true. As I'm sitting here today, I have no reason to lie. I would rather, just not appear than give some baloney. But so this is the first one. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but I have Cody. Surprise, surprise. I have the IPTV and I have Cody. So on this app, you can download stuff from different sources, right? So there's an add-on that I use to watch movies and stuff. It's called The Crew, and this one is. So you can save inside of those apps. You can save shows and come back and watch them later. So it's like my to-do list for shows. Well, after I watched that Nate video, the next day I was watching TV in my man cave here, and I came in to see what was on my to-do list, and I got A Million Little Things, The Ark, True Lies, Murder in the Heartland, Property Brothers, FBI Most Wanted, FBI International, and A Time to Kill and Kin, all saved on my favorites. I mean, I've never heard of these shows. I've heard of a few of the shows, but they're actually saved on my Kodi now. Like I went to the program and saved them. And I'm telling you, there's no way that I did that. I've never even heard of these shows. And when I went to click on a couple of these, there's no stream available. So you have to have a stream available for you to, anyway, long story short, there's been a few other incidents that have happened that I can't explain. They just sound crazy. I'll tell you two real quick. Back in 2005, I was with a friend in Nashville, and we went to see a movie called White Noise. And I had a little cheap, cell phones weren't that big back then. I had a cell phone. It was okay. But I had a cell phone, and we walked out of the movie theater. We were in separate cars, and I tried to call him, and it said calling, right? So it said calling. It never connected. I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, all right, come on, stand by. I'm on standby. Let's go. And after about 15 seconds, I heard this voice, and I'm just telling you, it happened. Believe me or not. And it goes, Ken.
No.
I swear to God. And I looked at the phone, and it wasn't timing anything. It was just it connected to something, but it wasn't like there was no timestamp to do it. So
you think that was something paranormal? Obviously, that was something paranormal.
Yeah. Now I look at it like, yeah, it had to be, because I thought maybe I'd lose my mind a little bit or whatever, but it was clear as day. And so that's one incident that happened. As I've woken up, I started to realize that these incidents that happen they're not like by chance, in my opinion, right? So I have another potentially paranormal thing that happened to me back in 2001. 2000, I was watching. So my computer was on my parents' house, and I'm watching TV, and I was on the internet. I don't even know. I think it was dial-up or some crap back then. It wasn't even very good, but I'm watching TV, I put in this movie that I rented called The Ring, and I'm playing online on my computer, and I'm on ESPN website looking at sports stuff, and I'm not really watching it, and I'm watching The Ring, and as the movie starts playing, I get a pop-up. There were no pop-ups back then. There's no malware, there's no nothing. I get a pop-up, and it said The Ring. And I was like, this shit is crazy. This is crazy. Like there was no such thing as a pop. I wasn't touching it. So it wasn't like malware. You touch something and something else pops up to redirect you. This was before any of that stuff ever existed. I had never had anything pop up on any of my screens ever. And I wasn't touching the screen. So that popped up as I'm watching the movie. And I'm like, this is just crazy. So I already believe that AI is somewhere in the field doing something.
I got a question. I just thought about this because I just picked up on this because your parents passed away. Do you think that something might be your parents trying to like reach out to you to let you know they're okay? I know that's a far reach, but have you ever thought about that?
It's funny that you say that because, like I said, one of the things that woke me up. Now I look back on it now. I thought it was funny before because I believed in spiritual stuff. I do believe in God for sure. As a creator, I don't know if it's, I'm not gonna get into the religious stuff. So my mom passed away about 15 years ago. I think 2007. So long story short, my dad was by himself and we are at the house. We're going to the funeral home. I drove back from Tampa where I was living to Orlando to be with him and see my mom when he called me and told me that she had passed away at the hospital. Came back. The next day we went to the funeral home, and my mother was always breaking shit electronically, right? She could touch something and it would just jack it up, computers, everything. So go to the funeral home. We're sitting, me and my dad are sitting in the chairs talking to the funeral director, planning the stuff, and sure as shit, all the lights go out. And,
wow.
and as we're talking about it, and I looked at my dad and I go, that's definitely her. Like, that's her. And I said to the guy, I go, has this ever happened before? And he goes, no, never. So I'm like, so those things happen. And sometimes we pay attention to them and sometimes we don't. And so, for me, it was paranormal, but it wasn't simulation paranormal. You know what I mean? And I don't know how to connect those two dots. I really have no idea, but I do have a theory that I'm working on now. And I'm talking to Cynthia Sue Larson tonight, Mandela Effect person, and I'm going to run some of this stuff by her. I've had Chris Sinatra on a couple times. And so Chris was on Chad's show, I think yesterday, and Chad posted it today. And as I was watching the show, I'm formulating a theory already. And so they're talking about time travelers, potentially, and how that works. Here's how I think that it works. I think that the past isn't exactly what we think it is. It is a simulational past. So I think that when things happen a certain way, when the story's written and done a certain way, we get to live in the present times of those events, right?
Yeah.
And when we start doing things that shape a future that they don't want, or that's not what is being able to be manipulated by these time soldiers or time cops, whatever you want to call them, the simulation goes back and redoes it. And we see those effects through Mandela effects. They won't maybe not change everything, but like for me, I'm 47 years old. So for me, until I realized about, a year or two ago that China was still communist, I was like, but communism was done. Like, when did communism come back? Like, how is China communist still?
I know, right?
Until COVID revealed that they were still communist. So what I mean by that is, like, it seems like we're living in the reality that this simulated past has given us. And when we go in a direction where I'm going to call them the lords of the minions, which I'm not going to use the term cabal and Illuminati, not for negative reasons. Just, I like lords of minions because I think that we have minions that are NPCs that are not able to wake up with the programming. So they're manipulated. Basically, the minions are manipulated. So these minions can make things happen where the king of the chess game can't move, right? It's just manipulating the chessboard. And when the minions start doing things a certain way via programming, via media, via neurological food, whatever it is, when they start making a direction where they can simulate a future that they like, they leave it alone. But when things start going haywire, they can manipulate things back in the simulated past that change, and then we notice them in the present. I know it's probably a lot of a theory, and it is very intuitive how I feel these things, but I feel like they're just coming to me like all at once. Like they just keep coming, and they're piecing them together of how I think this reality works.
Well, I've had Frank Jacob on my show. And there's more people who talk about this too. They talk about that looking glass technology, supposedly, that they say the white hats have it, and then they say the evil side has it too. That it's like a time travel technology. That it's like some kind of that you can look into the future and see things. And then there's supposedly the chronovisor in the past where people were able to manipulate that. Like, do you feel like we have those technologies, or do you think that's kind of like just lore?
Well, I do believe that in some aspect those things are true somehow, some way. I don't think that they're true the way that we're being told. But if this is a simulation, if things can appear and reappear and disappear, and the past has changed, and I don't want to hear Mandela effects or false memories. That doesn't even make sense. So we can agree that a memory is something that you remember. So if we all remember something that never happened, that's not a memory. That's not a conflagration. That's not a mismemory. That's not a memory. If I say that Ed McMahon worked at Publishers Clearinghouse, that's not a mismemory. If it never happened, it can't be a memory, correct?
No, I agree with you on this.
So we can just say that
1,000%. Like, I believe these Mandela effects are someone manipulating our timeline, because I say it on my podcast. The Mandela effect gets me so angry in a good way, because it's so frustrating. Because like, I remember Star Wars the way it was. I remember the Bernstein Bears the way it was. Like, I don't remember it ever being any different. And like you said, it's not a false memory. This is like, it's something real that's going on. It's an anomaly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still real the way that it happened to us, and it still happened that way to us in the present. But the only thing that changes is the past, like the record of the past. So to me, that's irrelevant. It does signal to me that the past is malleable, the same way the future is malleable, and the same way that these people who are the lords of the minions are trying to make us create a world they want, right? Because they can't do it. If they're not creators, they can't create. They have to program people, minions or creators, to create a future that they want, outcome that they want.
But like, how much of the past do you think is malleable? Because here's a good example. Like, I don't know if you know my story, but like, this is the best example I could think of. Like, I've had a troubled past, right? Like, I had a guy jump in front of my car and kill himself back in 2010. Right? Like, I don't think I can go back and change that, because I mean, it just seems like it's so concrete. Or maybe it's my belief, or maybe it's the belief, the collective's belief also, that happened, because it was like in the paper and stuff like that. All that's, you know what I mean? I don't really talk about it much, but it wasn't my fault. It ended up being his fault. He was on drugs, and he was like, it's a big story. It's, you know what I mean? But like, regardless, like, do you think we can change events like that? Or do you think because the collective believes it as well, it's hard for us to manipulate it?
To be honest, brother, I really don't know. I if I had to guess, I would say it's hard to manipulate major events. However, I mean, it could be some kind of a reality shift. I'm the first one to tell you, if I don't have an intuition of it, if I don't know, if I haven't connected those dots, if I haven't been able to see what I'm seeing or feel what I'm feeling, then I just say I don't know, and I really don't know if we can change the past. I would say that it's possible, but I believe everything's possible. I mean, when I see stuff appear out of midair, or change, or all these Mandela effects that are legitimate Mandela effects, not the ones that people are clinging on to, like colors or shapes or sizes. Maybe that's legit too. But I believe that we all have our bubbles of reality, and that we all have a perception. And that's what I believe that this boils down to. We're all pieces of God that are exploring this reality, and what it is and who's controlling it, I have no idea. I know what we're in now. I know what's going on. I know what I perceive. But here's the major thing that I want your viewers to understand, and my major point of what I want to say to the world is that if you let someone else control based on your perceptions of what you see and what you believe, if you let them control what's inside of you and how you feel and your emotion, then you've lost. Because the only thing that's really real in this world is the way you feel and your emotions and your memories that you tie to them. So, I would I would caution people to let someone else control their life, their reality, because in the end, if this is a simulation and if the lords of dominion are trying to control things, if that's the case, then you going with what they want you to do is them actually controlling you, and your free will is gone.
I agree, and I believe they are really trying to control us. I mean, you see that everywhere with like the the WEF, and like that's a whole other conversation. But like like the like not just that, but like all the like it goes back to like 9/11, man. Like when because like you're a little bit older than me, but like we both were around for 9/11. Like
I watched it live. I wasn't in New York, but I watched it live. I was at home around the same time that that ring thing happened, because it was 2000 that happened. So a year later, I'm sitting at home and it's like 9 a.m. or whatever time it was, 8:30 in the morning. My sister was in the other room sleeping. She's 2 years younger than me. And I was watching TV. I think I was watching ESPN, and the channel changed. And all of a sudden, here comes 9/11. I'm like, I just was staring at TV and I'm like, this is world changing. I remember thinking, this is world changing. So I knock on her door. I said, listen, you might want to pay attention to this. This is changing right now. This something's going on right now. So she woke up. But keep in mind also, I don't even know if I'm in a reality. I'm also a like a borderline solipsist. I believe in solipsism. I don't know if I'm the only one in this world. That's just the way that reality has shifted for me and shaped for me. I was also in first grade when the Challenger blew up in front of me, because I lived in Orlando. So I watched it. I watched it up in the air. So these are things that I'm like, and then I moved to Georgia last year and a half ago, and the Guidestones are gone within 6 months of me being in Georgia. So like, I'm experiencing these things that are like hitting home. Almost all these incidents hit home for me. That I was supposed to go see them, and now they're gone. And the Challenger blew up, and NASA's fake. All the crap that I have to perspectualize in my reality is, it does make it real.
It does, but like I remember, by the way, I remember where I was in 9/11 too. I was in college at the time. Like it was crazy. I remember I had to wake up and go to class, and like my college professor I remember like walking. I remember like seeing it at home, and it happened. Then I remember driving up to college, and then because I commuted, and then I was watching. They had it on the big screen TV at college or whatever. And then my teacher, he was just like, we can't change anything. He's like, so I was in like a C++ time at the class. He just kept teaching class. But like, what I was going with that is, it seems like a lot of more of our freedoms got taken away when that happened. That seemed like a major landmark point where like it seemed like our freedoms started getting taken away. Do you feel like that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, that's the way that they can manipulate reality. The lords of these minions, some people see it, they see how it happened, or the real thing that happened. And I personally, I don't know what happened, but I know it wasn't 2 planes, but that's just, my opinion. I'm nobody, just a reality researcher. But that's what we have to do. We have to disseminate that. And I'm not making that a point of emphasis for anything in general. I mean, what that situation changed really didn't change anything in our personal lives, in my opinion. Yeah, we had to go through. Now we got TSA. Well, what do they do? Now they spy on us. Well, they were going to do that anyway. Like, that now they're recording us. Now they're auditing us. Like, these things we're not going to change. They might have changed the situation for maybe a court case in the future, or maybe now it's in the past. But it may have changed that situation. It may have altered it. But I refuse to be a victim. I don't believe in the essence of evil. I believe in evil acts, but I don't believe in evil. I believe everything's perspective. And you see it on TV now. My wife watches this show called Lucifer, and it's an entertaining show. It's like, it's a perspective show. At first you can be like, well, you're a Satanist, you're a Kabbalist making this show. Not me, but the guy who makes the show. But it's all perspective. They flipped it. They said Lucifer is this good guy, and the Archangel Michael, who kicked Lucifer out of heaven down to earth, is the bad guy. Archangel Michael is the bad guy, and Lucifer is the nice guy. And he had to go to hell for his dad, to watch hell. But same with Enki and Enlil. And I
was going to ask you about that, because like you've had Tess on your show, and I was going to see what you thought about the Anunnaki and like our ancient history.
Well, first of all, I believe that our history is an observer effect. So what we look for, we will find. I don't know how far back this actual simulation goes. I don't know, or how far this reality goes, but it doesn't go back 5,000 years. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. These things were built, and then these things were put into place to tell the story to get us to now, or to get us to whenever it started. That's my interpretation of how this works. I do believe that in the stories that Enki is the good one, and that Enlil is the bad one. The stories of you could say, God and the Antichrist, or Christ, and, whatever. But I've long asked questions about religion, and I guess I can get answers if I really want them, but those things just don't make sense to me. And I've been asking those questions for a long time. So
Yeah, it seems like if they did create us, if some race came here and created humans, like I don't know if that actually happened or what, but like it seemed like in the stories, like they were trying to teach humans duality, like because this world's like full of duality. It seems like there's good and evil all the time. It seems like it's a constant fight between good and evil. But you said you don't believe in evil, or
no,
how does that work?
Yeah, I don't believe in opposites either. I believe in on inverses, basically. I believe in light and the lack of light. I believe in love and the lack of love. So if love is good, then the lack of love is not evil. It's just the absence of it. And that's what I believe for everything. It is literally just perspective. And I'm not saying that there's not evil acts that have been committed. I'm not saying that there have not been atrocities or people had malintent. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the spirit of evil coming into someone's body and possessing me to do X, Y, and Z based on the name of evil. I don't believe that. I believe in perspective. And again, I'm not saying that that is true. I don't know. I guess we'll never know. What I'm saying is I refuse to believe in the victim card. And for me, that's a staple of saying that I can create my own reality. I can create my own future and my own perspective, and no one will take that from me.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on that we were kind of getting into earlier but we kind of got away from was how maybe the paranormal ties into simulation theory, because people don't touch on this much, and I don't know how, because I really believe there's ghosts and spirits. I believe that you contacted, from what you told me, it seems like you had your mother was trying to connect you from the other side by turning those lights out. But I don't know how that ties into simulation theory. It's very tricky because it's like, what happens when we die? Where do we go? If it's a simulation, do we just keep getting recycled? Is it like Ola says, are we in some kind of like, or Howdy Mikowski, where they say we're in some kind of evil, like, where it's more malevolent or something like that like we're like soul recycled, or we're on a prison planet? Like, what are your thoughts on all that stuff?
Well, there's a lot there to unpack, obviously, but
Sorry.
what was the first question? Explain the paranormal?
Yeah, like how the paranormal. Do you have a theory on? And I don't expect you, because I don't have one. I don't really know like how the paranormal would connect to some simulation theory. It's rough, right?
I would say that you have to group the paranormal into the unknown, because that's really what it boils down to. It's that we don't know. We are sensing these things through our five senses, or maybe 1, 2, 3 senses, whatever they might be. I mean, every once in a while, I still smell my dad's cigarette smoke, like hard. And I could smell it across the room when he was in the bathroom, and I was across the house, and he lit up. So there are things that are affecting our senses that we can't know, or they're just unknown to us. And I think that the simulation aspect puts it into a box, maybe prematurely, that we don't know. But if we are in fact spiritual beings having a human experience, that and we're in some kind of a simulation. I'm not saying we're in a video game, but that this world is simulated somehow, then anything coming from outside the simulation would be paranormal. That's what that means to me. It's unknown. So if they're connecting inside of it, then that's how it could work. I don't really understand the grasp fully, and I don't buy into the dimensional aspects of it. I think that we are in a dimension. The dimension that we are in is called Earth, or this is part of the simulated Earth. And if there's another dimension, then it is truly a frequency or a vibration from outside of the simulation coming inside the simulation.
Yeah, well, and when you mention the paranormal, that makes me think of UFOs. And like, I try to cover UFOs a lot, but I can't prove it at all. Like I really can't. I don't know if anybody can. I mean, like the government has photos. Okay, here's where it gets tricky. It's like the government has photos and videos of UFOs, right? But then people say that the government also has reverse engineered craft. It's like, well, where did they get that craft from? You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know what we can prove and what we can't prove. That's kind of why I like doing this, because it's so hard to figure out. But what do you think? Do you think that the UFOs, I mean, because here's the thing, I was thinking maybe UFOs are something coming from outside the simulation.
Yeah, I think so.
Like there's something coming checking on us or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, I believe for sure that there are a lot of paranormal activity situations and cases that were they're still unexplained. I mean, if you walked out of your house right now and saw a 7-foot gray alien, would you be able to explain that? And I don't mean like I don't mean like he's 7 feet, he's gray, he's got big eyes. Like, how could you explain that? Because you're talking about two different things. We're talking about what we consider extraterrestrial, which just means, what does that mean, Ralph? Not from this plane.
Not terrestrial, not from this earth.
Not from this plane is what it means, right? Terrestrial means plane.
Yeah.
So it's not from this plane. So it could be any other plane. And obviously that's the case. For me, what those things can be broken down. And again, I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just perspectualizing it until I have other information that makes me go into the other side. I believe most of it is some kind of a simulated mind control, because we are all locked into our nervous systems that control our senses, and they can make it real, right? I mean, we have dreams all the time where we think that we're doing X, Y, and Z, and we wake up, we know we're dreaming, but it's maybe not quote unquote a dream. Maybe it's just, we're astral traveling or we're doing other things. But what it boils down to for me is the story of coincidence, right? So we have the story of coincidences, and you love history, I love history. I'm not as well versed as you are talking to all the people you talked about, but if we get a timeline right, we talk about the 1930s and the allied troops, right? The Germans, the Nazis, those people had ET contact, correct? That's the story we're told, or that's the story that's being okay. So if they have ET contact and then they lose the war, but Admiral Byrd went down to Antarctica, right? And he was fended off by ETs and the Allied Nazi forces who had ET help. So that makes no sense, okay, to me. So then we fast forward and we say, okay, well, we lost the war. How did we win a war when we couldn't even take over Antarctica? So they surrendered. Makes no sense. We took all of their scientists, and not only took the scientists, we didn't put them in the basement and ask for their help. No, we made them in charge of the heads of the states, the heads of the CIA, the heads of NASA, the heads of intelligence agencies, the heads of black book operations, which overrides the government that the president can't get access to. So does that make sense? Doesn't make sense to me. If you want to look at Roswell happened after World War II, correct? 30s was it before or after?
It was after World War II. That's what makes it interesting, because we drop a bomb near Hiroshima, then all of a sudden UFOs start showing up all over the place, which is weird.
Well, here's my take on that. So after World War II, we won the war. Yay! How do we win the war? We don't know. We put all their guys in the head positions, and we won the war. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so either they really had technology, which is possible, right? And we took it and we utilized it. If we reverse engineer it, you think we would test it out? You think we would try to fly those things?
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is, we had that technology. We reverse engineered it. We tried to. We were doing beta tests on those UFO ships, and guess what happened? One of them fell down in Roswell.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good point. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It could be. That's my theory of rationalization. Again, I don't know that I'm right. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying Roswell happened after World War II, after we tried to reverse engineer stuff, right? So it would make sense that we had some oopses go along in that situation.
Yeah, I'm open to hearing anything, because I don't think, like you said, it's like we said at the beginning, like nobody has the answers. It's all a guessing game, and that's what leaves me so perplexed. Is like I just wish I could find out one thing that was absolutely true for sure. You know what I mean? Like I'd be like I don't know what's the word. I'd be like tickled pink if like I could find out like one thing that I could like absolutely prove for sure. You know what I mean? After doing all these interviews, I'd love to just hear something that would like like that would, I mean, because like not everything, some things are verifiable. We think they're verifiable, but then that leads you to more questions. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's an unlimited rabbit hole. That's what this is. That's what this is about. In my opinion, that is kind of one of the proofs that is a simulation. I mean, everywhere you look, you're going to find an answer. I could argue every side of every equation that's ever been invented. I mean, you could do it. I mean, you could argue against, witness testimony all day long. Well, they were old, whether they saw something wrong. Eyewitness is one of the worst examples of prosecution. And, your senses are manipulated. We're being manipulated. That's the whole point. But for me, the reframing of how things work and the reframing of how incredible it is to look online and find an answer for anything, and maybe it's the wrong answer, but that's in itself, that's more proof. Who's putting these wrong answers out there on the internet?
That makes me think of like flat Earth, because like what makes me upset about flat Earth is because I kind of believe we're in a simulation too. I do believe we're in a simulation. So I feel like if we're in a simulation, how can we know what the real shape of the Earth is? So I feel like the whole flat Earth thing is like kind of like a psyop to get people to argue. If that makes any sense.
Our reality is a psyop.
Yeah.
Again, we can argue any side of any equation. We can argue anything. We can argue, that my hair color is gray and black. I mean, we can argue anything. I mean, you could argue that, well, it's not really black. It's just gray because of the spectrum of the light I'm in, whatever. If you shine a yellow incandescent light on my head or whatever, it'll turn yellow. Like, I mean, we could argue any of this stuff. So what's real reality is the question. What's going on outside of this reality is the real question to me. And I don't think we'll ever find out. So again, it brings me back to my point about reframing. So what is it that we want? I want to manifest the best life. I want to manifest joy and emotion and happiness, because that's all that's important. That's all that I can definitely say is true.
That makes sense. I like that. That's what I was saying when I was on my run the other day, and I was texting you because I was like still upset about my breakup or whatever. You gave me some really good philosophical points. I can't remember exactly, but like you have a really good way of looking at life, and that helped me a lot.
I think you have to, man, because once you realize that, there are a few things in life that you can't do anything about. And number one is, no matter how happy you are, you're always going to hit a bottom point at some point. I mean, you just can't stay happy, no matter how joyous, no matter how much gratitude, no matter, whatever it is, you're going to hit some point of suffering. And so the point isn't that you don't feel suffering. The point is that you reframe that suffering into understanding what is really important. And that is the present, the now, and the feeling of your reality, right? That's true. I keep saying one day I think I'm going to wake up and this is all going to be a dream. And I'm going to be, wherever the hell the other side is. And they're going to be like, man, you got one hell of an imagination, sir. Like that was ridiculous. You dreamed all that shit up. That's literally what I think's going to happen.
Yeah, it could, right? I mean, if it's like the Matrix, like we could be plugged into some pod somewhere, like experiencing this reality through a dream, like you said, like it's not out of the question, right? Like, yeah, nope, I mean, this world's so bizarre. Like, I'm just trying to think of anything else we didn't cover that I think might be interesting to talk about. Okay, here's one I'd love to get your opinion on. What do you think about like people who get like possessed and stuff like that? Do you think that's like real, or do you think they're having some kind of mental instability, or like do you think like there might be evil spirits that can kind of hijack the body if you're not, or I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, again, I don't believe in evil. I do believe that person is possessed. That is most definitely on the table. But we're talking about a simulation, right? So if okay, I'm not going to say if we're plugged in, but we'll take the metaphor of if we're plugged in. Why would we assume that somebody else can't plug into the same avatar that we are in?
Yeah. You know what that makes me think of? That makes me think of like when they say people can out of body travel, because I've tried to do it myself, like many times. I've tried to meditate.
Yeah, I mean, we're not,
and they say that you can get hijacked when you out of body travel. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, and I believe it. And I met one of Chad's friends down in Orlando, and she said that she shared a soul with her grandmother for a while. And I was like, I had never considered that. Never. Like, two souls could inhabit one body. And if you think about maybe schizophrenia, things like that, that's possible. It's a possibility. The other thing that I was thinking about when I contemplated those things was, thinking about how the body works, how the minds work. If we are truly just avatars, then can we jump? Can we be a transhumanist person? I mean, can there be a woman spirit in a guy's body? And I mean, is there a masculine and feminine spirit? So, I don't know any of these questions. I just, we kind of get locked into our ego, right? And we get tricked. Like, that's me, that's my race, that's my color of my skin, that's my ethnicity. But there's not one person on this earth that has a color or an ethnicity of your soul. What color is your soul, Rob?
I don't know. I mean, I've had girlfriends tell me they could see my aura, and they say my aura is different colors, but that's strange in itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if we don't have a color, or if our soul is truly the essence of us, and if you believe in a soul, how can you be racist? How can you be hatred of anyone?
Yeah. I agree.
It's one thing to say, okay, I understand this guy cut me off, and I'm looking at this guy, and this guy could be one ethnicity. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm just going to say ethnicity, any ethnicity. No matter what you see, you're going to be like, you son of a, if you're a victim, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. You could exchange that person for any other ethnicity, and you would just change it. That doesn't make you a racist. It makes you a victim. And I think that we need more creators in this reality. We need more people who can flip the switch quicker. And I'm certainly not perfect. There's probably tons of stuff that you could find on me or whatever, and not online or whatever like that. But if you access my memories or at my moment of truth, you saw the things that I did wrong. But I think that if we practice love, practice gratitude, practice understanding and empathy for the other person, the other thing that's going on. The person who cut you off might have been late for a funeral, or they have 2 kids and they have to get to their job on time, or they get fired. Like, there's so much that can go on. If you can flip that switch quicker and be like, okay, it's fine, I'm good. God bless them, or whatever you want to say. I'm gonna reframe it. If you can flip that switch and get out of that, then what you've actually done to yourself is you've actually empowered yourself. You said, they don't hold power over me. I hold power over my situation. Now, it's hard to do that. I'm not saying it's easy, but the more you do that, the more that you attract things that in your believing is seeing thing in your world, right? In your reality. The more you can manipulate that. That is how you manipulate your reality. That's how you manifest things.
I agree. This is fascinating stuff, man. This went really well. Like, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, I didn't know all we were going to talk about. We ended up going like 50 minutes. Like, is there anything else you want to kind of go over or get out before we finish up for today? Because this has been fascinating.
You mentioned the Matrix. Have you considered that the Matrix Resurrection's about clones?
Oh, I never thought about that. That's brilliant.
They're in clone pods.
That speaks. That speaks to someone that I think you got to get on your show. Did you ever hear Dr. Kim McGeorge?
No.
Oh, you look up my shows with her. You'll like her. She talks about like clones and NPCs and.
I love that. I love that stuff. Yeah, that's
stuff. I could introduce you to her too. Like, I think you would like to have her on your show. She's a great guest. Like,
so do you think that clones are among us?
Yeah, I definitely do. I've had someone on my show the other day, that was talking about that. I can't remember exactly how, but I think they were going for like a ufology type perspective. But like, I think it's definitely real. I think people are definitely cloning people, and I think that someone found evidence of that there's like cloning places in like Canada or something like that.
Yeah, I did a short ridiculous video about that, talking about it with my friend Mike on the other podcast. And there's a company called Clonaid, and I did a little research on that too, about how long it's been in business. And the US used to have anti-cloning laws, and well, they didn't originally, and then the company moved, I think, from, I don't know where it was at in the United States. They moved to the Bahamas, so that's where Clonaid is now, I believe. But there are rappers who have said that they have actually visited the Clonaid facilities. There's an R&B singer says she has clones that do her daily activities for her. That's how she can keep all her shit together. So I believe that our consciousness is transferred in our DNA, and that's what our kids are. when you transfer your kids, and you can clone someone by using their blood and DNA, because the memory of your existence and your memories and your essence is actually in your blood and your DNA.
But
So
there's no soul in that clone, right? There would be no soul.
There could be a consciousness, but would there be a divine spark? I don't know, and that is the question. I mean, are they programmed?
And that's kind of why I've always been fascinated about the alien abductions. And I know you don't get too much into that, but it ties into this. And here's why just hear me out. Because like in those abduction experiences, you're always hearing about they're taking eggs from women and semen from men, and then they're creating hybrids and clones. Why would they do that? You know what I mean? Like if they're an extraterrestrial race that's so far advanced on us, why would they need our DNA? It doesn't make sense. Like it's just maybe they were creating clones before or hybrids to, create another race. It's crazy, man. It's wild,
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're looking at it objectively from okay, so say there are UFOs out there are other creatures out there in the universe, which I'm not willing to concede yet. I'm willing to entertain any topic, but I'm not willing to consider that there are little green men running around or tall grays. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. Again, for me, it boils down to the perception of your reality. Like, can we control consciousness and programs of our minds? And the answer is hell yes, they can. The government can. We can. I think we can even do that at some level. But so if we're talking about, I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
Cloning and hybrids.
For DNA, yeah, sorry. So your scientists are looking for different things. This is a physical reality. I mean, obviously, right? So if you have NPCs, I'm going to call them minions instead of NPCs, because I think they could be, there could be a soul in there. But if they're not on the bandwidth of consciousness and awareness, then they're probably shrunk down to, just doing whatever's told. So those minions, if you have a minion and then you have one of us get dissected, you think they'll be the same? Because there's probably a portion of each individual human that's on a different strand of awareness and consciousness. That's the way I look at it. There's something called the God particle that they found, right? So the God particle, in my opinion, is one of those terms that's been hijacked. The God particle, in my opinion, is a soul. It is your soul, and it is in your DNA somewhere. Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not saying that I am, but I believe that the essence of your humanity and the essence of your spirit is in your DNA somewhere. So if that's the case, and if there are people who I call minions running around, I would want to dissect them and see, hey, listen, I want to know what's the difference between this one and this one. I want to know why he's high vibrating and he's doing whatever the hell I tell him to do. I could mind control him and say, jump off a bridge, and he'd do it. Meanwhile, I'm not jumping off a bridge, bro. It's not going to happen. Yeah. You can log into me. I'm O negative. So there's been talk about that, not being able to be cloned. I'm
O negative too.
So again, there's something within your blood type, in my opinion. It's something, and maybe that's a high category that means nothing, blood type. But there's something in there that's categorizing us separately as humans. And I believe that's why we would abduct people, or why aliens would abduct people, or again, the government could be mind controlling people to say, okay, I know you have memory of this in your body. I know you have memory of this. However, I want you to understand that this is not a person abducting you, it's an alien. And then you just sound crazy. Right. So it's already, thrown out with the bathwater. So, there's a lot of reasons why aliens could exist theoretically and metaphorically. But it's more logical to me that is an aspect of mind control.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that it's something coming from outside the simulation, like that. It's like that maybe that's what UFOs are. Like, I don't know. I have no clue. It's fascinating though. Like, it's like this is that one show that I think about. It. Yeah, you made me think about TV shows. I don't watch a lot of TV shows. Did you ever watch Black Mirror? They talk about a lot of this stuff in that show.
I have not seen it, but I do know the show, and I've attempted to sit down and watch it for a while, but I haven't actually watched any of those. There's too many different ones that I'm not sure. If you direct me to one, I'll watch it, but I don't want to watch the entire series based on
my ex got me watching it, and then I'd have to. I mean, all I can say is just sit down and watch one, and you'll like it. I think it's definitely like, but pick one. They're all pretty good. They all talk about all these different topics. They don't really get into aliens, but they get into a lot of like simulation and like and stuff like that. It's definitely good. It's worth checking
So
out.
I have another topic we could talk about that I really didn't want to hit because I was trying to save it for some kind of an intuitive person that I was talking to, and I mean that in a bad way. Just it's an AI conversation about transhumanism, and it kind of goes into what you're saying about aliens and things like that. So if we look at, and again, I don't know where the information is coming from, so that's why I'm interested to talk to somebody like that to say, hey, this is your intuition, or this is just your mind making it up, or whatever the hell it is, because I get these packets, or these, I'm not gonna call them downloads, but lack of a better word, it's information coming to me that I'm not necessarily thinking, because I do believe that there's an Akashic field, that there's no original thought. There's just replication of what it is. So anyway, I got this information that came to me that the purpose of humanity is to find an eternal consciousness, right? And so what I mean by that is that if we're here on Earth, the entire purpose of everyone on Earth, whether you have $1 or $1 million, is, lack of a better term, live forever, right? Be eternal or become eternal. So as you see our evolution, and this is an original thought that's not original, so I'll preface that. If you see our evolution, it's like we write on tablets, or we write on stone, we write on trees, we write on paper, then we go digital, then we erase that, and now we want to be uploaded into the cloud. So what I'm going with this is, if I could replicate everything that you're doing, all your search data, the way that you think, the things that you think, the processes that you think, the programs that make you think, all these things that go into who you are, Rob Khalil, all those things, right? They go into you. If I can record those things and throw in an algorithm that can predict your behavior, are you not living forever? Now, I don't mean your essence, I mean you. So if I can transfer consciousness into a digital form, is that not the singularity? Is that not the purpose of what we want to do as humans? It's, in my opinion, AI and transhumanism isn't about AI taking over. That's not what it is. The singularity refers to as the human consciousness living forever inside of a simulation like this that can never die, meaning that our decisions, our programs, our essence lives forever. That's the singularity, that there's no more physical form, there's only digital form. And guess what? They found indenture codes into the web browsers. So that means potentially, in my opinion, people who are dead are logged in. People who are passed over, no longer in physical reality, is that them? Are they the AI? Are they the AI?
I was just gonna say, because it seems like people, like it seems like how they say everything goes in a circle. Like it seems like if we're consciousness, and like the internet is somewhat consciousness, because it's like in the cloud, existing somewhere
internet,
in the
though.
ether, right? So it's like if you're putting people, uploading them into the cloud, it would be like people returning to the original state of consciousness.
But
does that make any sense, or no?
Yes, and no physical form. And so so people think that AI is trying to enslave us. In my opinion, that's not what singularity is. We're trying to get to a form where nobody's going to be sick, nobody's going to be diseased. Basically, this physical form is gone. This physical reality is gone, and we live internally in it, but not in physical form. Everybody's consciousness lives forever. There's an expansive universe that looks like, oh, look, the universe, it's expansive, and it's limitless, and it's eternal. And that's what I think the singularity is that we get rid of the physical form.
But do we already have that, and we just don't know it, because we have this like veil of forgetfulness when we come into this reality, and then it seems like when we die or when we cross over, that spirit lives on. So do we already have that, and we don't know it? You know what I mean?
That's a good question.
So we're searching for something that we already have.
Well, it's a replication potentially of a reset. I mean, is that what the resets are? Are we literally trying to reset our humanity again to get to that level? Because that's what it looks like it's coming to me. It looks like every time we reset, we have reached the singularity. The singularity is just a reset point where we go, okay, we've done it. Now let's do it again.
That's fast. This is fascinating. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. I mean, like, I almost feel like we already have a soul. So I feel like our soul lives forever. So I don't know if it would be right to do the AI thing or not. You know what I mean? I don't think I would do it.
I'm not advocating for you guys for anyone to put chips in your brain and log into the internet. All I'm saying is that if the goal is to be eternal and to end suffering and to live forever and not have to worry about supply chains and kill cows and and X, Y, and Z, all these things that we say are not godly. That's the main argument. God can't be benevolent. Look at all the suffering in this world.
I know, it's crazy, right? I'm sorry, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. You got me so excited because I was thinking, like, why do we live in this predatory world where, like, I can walk down the street and I see a buzzard eating roadkill, or like we kill cattle, and it's like so brutal. You know what I mean? But it's like you have to do that. Like, people try to be vegan, and people are vegan, but then I hear stories of people like, oh, I was vegan and it didn't work out because my iron got low, and I ended up having to start eating meat. And then they eat meat and they get that guilt conscious, because I know I do when I eat meat, I feel guilty. Why is that? You know what I mean? It's fucking crazy. We live in an insane asylum.
What do we call that when animals eat animals?
Predatory? I mean,
no, it's a circle of life, and that's what we're doing. I mean, it is a circle of life, and in my opinion, it started with what it's called the Big Bang, or it's called the birth point, whatever that is, and it goes, in my opinion, and it ends in the singularity, and then we do it all again. That's my opinion of what's going on. Wow. So we're living in a 3D reality that is not just 3D, but it's also a simulation that we've already repeated before. We've already done it before.
Yeah, this is fascinating, man. This is deep. This is a deep conversation. Like,
yeah, I don't mean to be hijacking your paranormal channel, but this is where it's going to go.
No, this is interesting, man. This is, I mean, like I said, I'm open to everything. Like, this is really cool. Like, this is, I love talking about this kind of stuff, like, I don't know, but, yeah, this has been amazing, man. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we, finish up for today?
No, man, I made some notes, and I've covered some of this I want to talk about with you. I got, Chris Sinatra coming back eventually. I want to ask him about some of that stuff. He taps into the Akashic records and some of the intuitive fields. I'd like to know where I get this information from. I mean, I know I have a great imagination, but is it imagination, or is it I'm grabbing it from the field that's already existing?
Well, you're not the only one getting downloads. Like, there's a lot of people for some reason. Why? I don't know what that. I feel like this awakening that we're going through. People are it's like a mass awakening, and people are getting like psychic abilities. It's like, it's so strange what's going on. It's the most amazing time to be alive.
It's a very synchronistic time, and I think it's, like I said, you have to reframe it to be like, this is exciting. And you talked about your girlfriend and the breakup, and I'm like, I don't know how I would feel. I mean, I do know how I feel. I would have to eventually have to move on, right? But I wanted to perspectualize that for you and go, if not only if she wasn't the right one for the person that you are now, you have to grow into that person for you to meet the right person of who you want to be. But the more important part was, what I've seen is you had your breakup and you dove headfirst back into your podcast. So if this information is needing to come out, whether it's, I'm not saying it's me, I'm just saying anybody, your information for your own journey. If you're only here because you have extra time on your hands and you have extra quest and you're thirsty for knowledge, that could have been depriving you for that. It wasn't the right time for you to meet someone and to have that relationship because you're not ready for that opening of the next quest of your life.
That makes perfect sense. I never thought about that.
You have to embrace that, man. You have to embrace that. You have to go, you don't have to say it happened for a reason, because you don't need to know the reason. All you need to know is what's available to you. When you lose a job, the first thing that you should be thinking is, I'm free. I'm a free agent. I have unlimited opportunities. I'm no longer bound by the 9 to 5. I can do anything that I want. But most people go, oh shit, that $300 a week. Yeah, I was making all that money. It was, and there's no money there. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for what you love to do. And I think for you to perspectualize that is, man, I can dive headfirst into what I love to do until I find what I'm looking for.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I love to do. I love to sit and talk with people like yourself. Like, I want to do this forever. Like, I mean, like, if I can do this, if I can't, then I'll end up having to get a job eventually. But like, for right now, I'm trying this and I'm seeing how it works. I mean, luckily I won an unemployment case. So like, I'm not like in poverty stricken or anything, but like, it's always good to have options, right? Like, it's always good to like.
Did you follow Art? I know you talk about Art Bell a lot. Did you follow his life? Do you know all about his life? Was he married? Did he have kids? Like, what was the situation?
Yeah, he was
I
like
don't know.
married. He had kids, and he was like he was like real big into radio. He did like radio, and he did ham radio, and stuff like that. And
Let me
I
ask
don't
you a
know, like
question. If you were mapping out a perfect scenario for your life when you were younger, would this not be it?
yeah, you're right.
But I mean, just add some more viewers, add some more money to the equation. And what if you couldn't get to the level you want to be at to be successful, to the level you want to be at, unless you dove headfirst into this and did this first? Because do you think that maybe having a significant other would take away from your time doing this? Because I think it
Yeah,
probably
you're
would.
right. Because I mean, like the amount of time I spend like getting guests and emailing people back and
It's a
uploading
full-time job.
shows and studying for guests, and it's like a 24-hour job. It's like
It is.
it's
Well, you
really
have to be
is.
successful. I mean, if I'm looking at your roadmap of your life, and this is what you want to do, this is your essence, this is your calling, this is your purpose, right? If this is what you want to do, you have to make this work before you add the next one in. Is how I would look at it. Like that will come when you are where you need to be on your higher calling. That's how I would look at it if I was you. Like it wasn't the right time, not because it wasn't her, not because it wasn't me. It's because I have to have a roadmap of success for my life and my plan. And this is the plan that I want. I need
That's
this first.
wow,
I need
wow.
that
That
second.
nobody since this whole breakup happened, like nobody's put that into perspective, and that makes perfect sense. Like
And
that's so
you should wake up
enlightening.
smiling every day. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm a creator. I want to create this show to be everything that I want it to be. And no matter whether it's, I'm not saying you have to be the Joe Rogan or whatever, but you have to do what you have to do for yourself, and that's part of your journey. And when people can learn to reframe these things properly, I mean, you truly wake up like, what am I gonna create today?
Yeah, because we create our world. We're
That's
creating
right.
this world. Wow, man! Like you really just set me on a path. Like you're a really enlightened cat, man. Like wow.
I
Like
don't know
I
anything.
thank you so much. That's insane. Like nobody this whole time this has been going on. Nobody's put that into perspective for me. Like
Yeah,
no one.
you
So
had to do it. I didn't do anything. I just put a couple words together. You had to figure it out. You had to understand what was going on.
yeah, thank you so much, man. Wow. Well, can you tell everybody where to find your show? And I'll put links in the description. But thank you so much, Ken. And
Yeah, no problem.
yeah,
You can find me at the We Are One Tribe Now podcast. The show is called We Are One, and YouTube gave me the handle of We Are One Tribe. So I think you have to punch in We Are One Tribe, I believe, and then you'll see the microphone and the We Are One symbol. And that's it, man. I just want to bring people happiness, gratitude. I want people to understand that they should reframe their own reality and they can live within it. Don't let anybody else take your power from you.
that's well said. And thank you so much. And I'm gonna post this today. And